our next testimony is Karissa Factura, and I will let her tell you about herself.
Rika was stuffing tissues in my pocket there, so this is too high. I'm so short. I'm just gonna. Help. Good evening, sisters. It's such a blessing and a privilege to be here with you tonight. Before I begin, I just want to invite the Holy Spirit into this space to speak through me and to touch whatever hearts need to hear His voice tonight. So my name is Karissa Factura, Car for short. Some of you may know me as Car. I've actually been married to my favorite person, Ryan. He's up there somewhere near the video. For 6 years now. Actually, our 6th year anniversary is on Sunday, feast day of Saint Faustina. Marriage has been one of the greatest joys and source of sanctity of my life, if you know what I mean for married women out there. Like many newlyweds, we had dreams of starting a family, and in our hearts, we believed it would happen naturally, maybe even quickly. But as the months passed and then years, we found ourselves in an unexpected season of waiting. It was a kind of waiting that I wasn't prepared for, a longing and the ache that won't go away. During that time, we continued to serve in ministry. So my husband and I serve in young adults. So we do talks and we do shares and we conduct young adult ministry. And we continue to show up for others. So we're also parishioners of Sacred Heart Church. But internally, I wrestled, right? Through the service, through showing up at Mass, showing up in our own ministry, I wrestled. Like, how do I prepare for a life I'm not sure will come, right? Do I stop dreaming? Do I stop hoping? Or do I just keep going and trusting in the Lord? So the waiting stretched me in ways I never really expected. There were days of deep trust and days of very hard, and a lot of tears were shed. But along the way, God gave us little signs and affirmations, and He showed that our prayers were not in vain. Finally, year 2021 came, and just as Ryan and I finished our novena to Saint Gianna on April 28th, I tested and the result came back positive. It was surreal. We were like, oh my gosh. We've done so many novenas. I know you don't really tell anyone that you're pregnant until after the first trimester, but our families and some of our closest friends were our greatest prayer warriors, and we felt that you guys deserve to know the good news. So we let them know. They were very happy, and the Lord is so, so good. What great news to have when Mother's Day is right around the corner. The weekend of Mother's Day came, and my family was greeting me, Happy Mother's Day, oh my gosh, you're gonna become a mother. However, that night, pain in my abdomen started. So I woke up my husband, I rushed to the washroom and started crying in pain because I was in great pain. There was a lot of blood, and I reached out my hand, and there were lots of clots and tissues that came out. And you know when you just know. I knew exactly what was happening. I started to cry because I was suddenly overcome by deep pain of loss. Like you don't even know what you've lost, but you were crying. Doctor confirmed via ultrasound that I had a miscarriage. I started questioning God, are you playing a joke on me? The Lord gives and the Lord takes. I felt like Job, the story of Job, but I was not as faithful as he was because I started being angry at God. God took my baby on Mother's Day. Mother's Day of all the days of the year. So every year I'm reminded on Mother's Day that I lost my baby, that I'm not a mother. I started questioning my identity. Maybe I wasn't fit to be a mother. Maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe, you know, like, I don't know. All my friends, even my sister-in-laws, and the ladies around me, can imagine, the ladies around me started becoming pregnant and expecting and having conceived in the first year of their marriage. And I started questioning, is there something wrong with me? I want to be happy for them, and I am happy for them. I'm very genuinely happy for them. But, sometimes it begs the question, like, why does it hurt here? Right? It hurts here. But the thing is, sisters, yes, maybe I didn't know it at the time. God is faithful in ways that we may not fully understand. Gianna, the child that we lost, is now interceding for us in heaven and continuing to cheer for us. God also continued to bless us in many different ways, but I know we get so blinded by His blessings because we're waiting for that one thing that we really want, but He's actually really blessing us with other many things. And looking back, 6 years of my married life, they were wonderful years. Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I came to know Ryan, my husband, during COVID. We were stuck in the house together for 2 years. So it was such a blessing to really know him and just be the two of us. We also have friends that are praying for us, and I know they're praying for us because of continued graces and peace, despite the ache that we continue to feel. One of the most powerful parts of this journey was learning to bring our longing together before Jesus in adoration. Ryan and I try to sit before the Lord regularly, not with perfect faith, but with open and aching hearts. And it was there in that stillness that our marriage deepened and our prayers became less about fixing our situation and more about surrendering to God's will, even if it looked different from our own. One particular moment in adoration was so memorable for me because I remember I didn't want to go to adoration that week because I was just so depressed. There's good moments, there's bad moments. I was just so depressed and I was so mad about to God, and about getting another negative pregnancy test actually that morning because I tested. But I went to adoration because Rai was making me go, and he said, we gotta go. So I went there. You know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give God a piece of my mind. And I did. The whole hour of adoration, I just questioned him. Like, how could you, God? Like, I'm so faithful. Like, how could you do this to me? I serve you at church. I read at church. I just started pouring my frustrations. And next thing you know, adoration was done. I didn't even let God speak. I was just like... And every after adoration, on our way home, my husband and I would always recollect our time in adoration. We always want to know, what did God tell you during your time in adoration? Did God speak to you in ways? So we would tell each other. So he asked me, how was your adoration? I said, don't even talk to me about that. I gave God a piece of my mind, right? And he just said, well, I had a great time in adoration. And I looked at him, I said, must be nice. He told me, when he was sharing, he actually told me he had a vision. And the vision was, he was also in adoration praying. And if you went to adoration in St. Bonaventure, it's a little chapel, and there's the aisle, the middle aisle. And he said as he was praying, there was a child in the middle aisle. And the child looked at him and said, "Daddy, look, it's Jesus." And when Rai told me that story, I just started crying. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like, God, I didn't even let you speak. So God spoke through my husband. God affirmed me through my husband and gave him that vision. And I continued to hope. We also began to turn to St. Joseph. So we had a friend that visited us from Germany, and they heard about our story. And the couple said that, oh, write a letter to St. Joseph and send it to the oratory in France. So I said, okay, well, we've done all the novenas, we've offered masses, we haven't written letters yet, so let's try it out. So we wrote a letter to St. Joseph, sent it to the oratory in France, and about our longing and about, wanting a child. And we're still waiting for a response, St. Joseph. And eventually, in our service to the young adults, we actually had a conference at St. Joseph Oratory just past May in Montreal. And I'll never forget being in that space filled with like candles and prayers. If you've been to the oratory in the basement, there's lots of crutches, letters. Apparently, they hang the crutches there for the people that have been healed from their illness. So, seeing all those letters and crutches on the wall, it was there that I really felt like quiet and profound peace. That the time that we were in the oratory, Rai and I took the time to visit the tomb of Brother Andre. And while praying, I had another letter. I wrote another letter. And I said, "Here you go, St. Joseph. I'm personally delivering it." Because maybe my letter got lost. And Rai looked at me with like teary eyes, so he was just like. We went to Mass, and as I was praying in Mass in the oratory, I was just staring at St. Joseph, and the typical statue of St. Joseph, he's carrying baby Jesus. And while I was praying, I had a picture in my mind that St. Joseph was giving me baby Jesus. Handing me baby Jesus. And I lined up for communion, and I received Jesus. And at that point, I felt a profound feeling of peace and thankfulness and clarity that I was like, oh my goodness, all I need is Jesus. All I need is Jesus. Baby Jesus. And here's what I can tell you, sisters. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't the answered prayer, but the transformation that happens while you're waiting. I came to know Jesus in such a personal, intimate way in this season. Not the Jesus of quick fixes, but the Jesus who weeps with you, who walks with you, who sits with you in the silence. I mentioned that every Mother's Day I'm reminded of what I've lost. But I'm also reminded that God is listening. He answered my prayer of having a child. It may not be how I would have expected it, but He answered my prayer. I am a mother. So I do celebrate Mother's Day, not because of who or what I've lost, but what I gained. Trust that God knows what He is doing and hope for things yet to come. So to anyone here tonight who's waiting for healing, for clarity, for a spouse, for a child, for restoration of relationships, I just want to encourage you. God sees you. He has not forgotten you. And the waiting is not wasted. He is the author of beautiful stories, and He is so, so good. Thank you.